last time on Oz Hour?
Okay, last time on Oz Hour, well, first we're introduced to a teleprompter or something, telegraph, where they tell us about Oz now being able to have communication. So the books are being written from Oz itself. And then we meet Ojo and Unk Nunk. Unk Nunky. Yeah, that's what it is. Uncle Nunky. We meet them and they're just these cute little munchkins that live in a house all by themselves in the forest, and they're running out of food, they're running out of water, they're running out of everything, and they're poor, which is insane. And so little Ojo's like, we gotta go, and little Unk Nunky is like, come. And so they go, and then they backpack up a mountain. They're like, we got to get out of here, let's go, we need to find where are they going? They're going north because they know there's fruit and vegetables out there, and that's what they want. And so they're climbing this mountain, and they run into the the crooked wizard and Margot, not Margot Robbie, but Margot Tall something. She's the wife, and they learn that this guy is the creator of the powder of life, and that he is now making a patchwork girl to be their little servant because they accidentally made this glass cat that is a bitch, and they hate him like you don't even understand. And so they're there doing that. Ojo gets a little mischievous and starts throwing everything in there, like cleverness and all that type of things, and he really doesn't hold back. And then we move on to the other being that they created, the glass cat, who is just hates his life, hates everything, hates them, is very just mean. And then we end with them about to bring the Patchwork Girl to life, and that's all I'm gonna say. Oh my god, that was so long.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 35 of Oz Hour, the only place where you can hear everything you never knew about the wonderful and strange land of Oz.
That's right. With the help of some alcohol, we will be discussing each of the 14 books in L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz series.
Today, we will be continuing with Book 7, The Patchwork Girl of Oz, covering chapters 5 and 6.
We're your hosts, Blake Stone
and Wyatt Swangham.
And joining us, as always, is our resident Oz initiate, and they go, Hannah Aguirre.
Here I am. This is me. There's nowhere else on earth I'd rather be.
So Hannah just played Last Time On, where she recapped what happened last time in The Patchwork Girl of Oz. Hannah, that took you 2 minutes and 4 seconds to cover, which is way too long.
I'm a little embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. I only got a couple of the things that you missed. When you were discussing the prologue, you seemed a little confused about how L. Frank Baum was communicating with Dorothy. Just to let you know, he was using wireless telegraph.
That's right.
Yeah. Not plot important, but still interesting.
Yeah.
Also, Ojo and Unk Nunky are headed over the northern mountain so that they can reach the Munchkin City, which is more densely populated, because they live in the middle of nowheres. The magician's wife is named Margalot. I think you call her Margot Tawny.
That's my mom.
Also, Ojo was throwing all sorts of qualities into the Patchwork Girl's brains. It seemed like maybe we didn't get some clarity on that. But that's all I really have. I would say good work, but oof.
It's a bit long.
Yeah.
Speaking of bit long, I would also add that the chapters in this book are a bit long,
yes.
Which is a great thing because it's better, frankly, it's better writing, it's a little more interesting, and we're getting a lot more out of them. So this episode, for instance, we're doing chapters 5 and 6, which is fewer than we ever do on an episode, but it's just a lot of content. So more episodes per book, I guess.
Details.
Yeah.
Oz Hour for another year.
Woo!
Before we started recording, Wyatt went ahead and whipped up some cocktails. And what is this delicious looking thing?
Yeah, so tonight we are drinking the Magical Compound, the recipe for which you can find on our Instagram at Oz Hour Podcast.
Slurp. Tastes like a mule.
I poured a full tablespoon on myself.
Oh,
Ooh, delicious.
Look it up.
No.
Chapter 5. A terrible accident.
So when we last read, Dr. Pip sprinkled the powder of life over the Patchwork Girl, right?
And he says it's going to be a few minutes, but then a lot happens really, really quick.
Yeah, like right as he finishes saying, oh, the magic's going to take a few minutes, the Patchwork Girl's arm shoots up. It smacks the bottle of the powder out of his hand, and it flies across the room.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's flying right toward Unk Nunky and Margot Lot. And so they jump out of the way. But when they jump, they bump into each other midair, and then Unk Nunky hits a shelf where the liquid of petrification was resting on the windowsill.
No.
Yes.
So,
Why does he just have those things on shelves?
I know. Trust me. But in this moment, the scream that Dr. Pip lets out, because Dr. Pip is like, what the fuck? He screams. That scares Ojo. Ojo screams and also jumps.
Yeah. Ojo's like trying to like get away. The Patchwork Girl is also like, what the hell's going on? And she grabs onto him and will not let go.
Yeah, she
So
wraps her arms around
Ojo's
him.
like running away, and the Patchwork Girl is holding on to him.
Yeah.
So
She's too strong
And
already.
she-
She's
yes.
got a grip of a pit
So
bull.
basically what's happened is that everyone except for Unk Nunky and Margalot, who bumped into the shelf, has kind of gotten out of the way.
Yeah.
But the liquid of petrifaction is tottering and tottering on the shelf, and it tips over and pours all over the magician's wife and Unk Nunky.
And it turns
Both of them?
both of them.
Both of them.
And it turns them to granite or to marble or whatever it
They
is.
are just completely frozen as marble statues in the same positions they were in when they were leaping away from the Patchwork Girl.
God.
So Ojo sees that, that the only person he's ever talked to in his entire life turned to stone. And so he pushes the Patchwork Girl off and he runs over. He's like, oh my God, like Unk Nunky, oh my God,
Yeah.
He's
you're marble.
He's touching Unk Nunky's hands. He's like grabbing Unk Nunky's beard. Everything about him is just marble stiff. And Ojo is distraught.
Yeah.
His dad
Traumatized.
basically is frozen.
Father!
Well, and the magician, like Dr. Pip, he's like pacing, he's weeping, he's like, "Oh my God, Margalot, I'm so sorry. Like, please come back to me. Like, please forgive me. Like, I'm so sorry."
The Patchwork Girl has decided she's all done being scared now.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that was scary. Now let's all have some fun.
Yeah, she's never
Oh,
seen
no.
anything before, so
So-
she just kind of walks
Okay,
over.
well, her little clever brain should figure out how to undo that.
Right,
Well,
okay, I would hope.
good point.
But I would hope that also Dr. Pips would. He made
That's
the
what I
fucking
thought too. I was
liquid.
like, you gotta have an
antidote.
Yeah, something.
So the Patchwork Girl starts looking at all the people and she's like, wow, this is so weird. And then she looks at herself in the mirror. She's really like happy with what she sees. And she says, but there's a gaudy dame, makes a paint box blush with shame. Razzle dazzle fizzle fazzle. Howdy do, miss, what's your name?
Oh, so she is
An elf? I don't fucking know.
yeah, she's a cartoon character.
it's really giving Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh my God.
But she does this like deep bow and then like to her own reflection, because I think she doesn't really get that it's a reflection, but then she sees it bowing and then she laughs. And the glass cat hasn't gotten enough attention for a few minutes. And also the glass cat went to hide under the table during all this. So the glass cat comes out and is like, "Oh, like you must be laughing at your own reflection because you look fucking terrible. Like, aren't you ugly? Like you're fucking disgusting."
She's a
Pretty
mean girl,
much.
mean girl.
The Patchwork Girl's like, are you kidding? I am one of a kind. I am one of the rarest creatures around. I'm proud of the way I look.
Yeah.
Look at me.
I am original. Nothing can compare to me.
Wow,
You can't
the
call me ugly because I'm one of a
confidence.
kind. Yeah, and very smart.
The magician kind of rightfully says, everybody shut up and let me think.
Yeah.
He's like, my wife is stoned.
Yeah. And also like something in this too, like this is all just happening in the background. Like the Patchwork Girl and the Glass Cat, but like Ojo and Dr. Pipt are both like mourning the only person they love, like in the foreground. So it's like,
That's
shut
true.
the hell up. Like no one heard that rhyme. Everyone is just upset.
Yeah, quit looking at your motherfucking face in the mirror.
Yeah, but the Patchwork Girl just like sits down on the couch and she says, "Go ahead, think all you want. Like, doesn't bother me. I'm chilling." And I'm like, okay, I like this girl. I kind of like this girl.
She's unbothered.
Yeah.
She woke up with an attitude and she really keeps it. Like she's like, yeah, no, I know who I am.
And she's
I know what
confident.
it is.
Yeah.
She is.
I
She
do
is.
like that.
But suddenly, a new voice enters the chat.
No.
A voice they've never heard before, and a voice that comes from just within this room. And it says,
Oh.
"Gee, but I'm tired of playing that tune." And it's the phonograph.
Yeah, I was
asking-
about the powder of life just
Yep.
flew everywhere.
Yeah.
There's gotta be some things alive.
Yeah. The phonograph is asking if it can rest because it's been playing this song for fucking ever.
Dr. Pitt looks the phonograph up and down and he's like, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Yeah. He's like, "This is the worst luck I could have had. Like, the powder must have gotten on you." And sure enough, he like walks over, he sees like the container's broken, like on the phonograph, around it, and the phonograph is just still talking. But this leads us to our first bit of guest trivia,
Oh.
our only, which is, Hannah, when was the phonograph invented? A, 1844. B, 1877. C, 1899. Or D, 1909.
What even is a phonograph?
Victrola?
What'd you call me?
Bi- a phonograph is like a record player, and then it has like the big like brass horn on the top.
Okay.
And if it was a cartoon, it would like talk like a.
Oh my
sock
god,
puppet.
it's alive.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna have to say those dates again. I just needed a
No,
visual.
you got it. I got it. Okay. So when was the phonograph invented? A, 1844. B, 1877. C, 1899. Or D, 1909.
You know, I feel like that thing has got to have been around for like a pretty long time. So I'm just gonna do with like that was the second. It was B, the like second oldest,
Yes, 1877.
and then it was 1843.
1844.
I'm gonna say B.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yay!
Yes, it was invented in 1877, and this would have been your redemption question, but I'll just tell you, it was invented by Thomas Edison.
Oh.
Wow.
I know, isn't that something that makes you realize you don't know anything about history?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't tell you when he was alive.
Things
No.
that make you go.
A series.
So, as if to prove that it's alive, the phonograph starts doing this little like jig. And, like, dancing around like with it's attached to a
Don't
table.
do that.
So
Don't
the
do
legs
that.
of the table.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's really
I like don't step on my toes. Actually,
Yeah,
it's
seriously.
kind of giving in Harry Potter when the thing that lives in the closet turns into a spider and then Ron makes it have roller skates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In the third one.
One of them.
In this case, the roller skates are Dr. Pipt shoving it into the corner and putting a bench in front of it.
Yeah.
And being like, "Don't move."
He says,
God.
yeah, he's like, "You lay down and shut the hell
Let
up."
the man stretch,
Yeah.
or let them stretch.
Yeah, let them stretch.
Let
But
them stretch.
it's like he's just like, God, like phonographs were fucking annoying before, and like now this is even worse. I literally never thought the phonograph could be worse.
Yeah, he's like, everyone in Oz is going to be fucking horrified that you
Yeah.
exist. But the glass cat is like, "Oh, you've bungled everything, Dr. Pipt."
Which the cat's name is Bungle, so he's trying to do something. He's like, "Oh, you're calling me a mistake? Well, maybe you actually fucked everything
It's
up."
like actually you're the mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Patchwork Girl is like, "Well, not me, actually. I'm beautiful and perfect." And then she begins to dance up and down through the room.
Yeah.
So she's really giving polychrome in this moment.
yeah.
Really is.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Ojo, on the other hand, is like, it's
Yeah.
all of my fault in some way. I know it. Like, I'm Ojo the unlucky.
Yeah,
like,
he's
this
like-
is my fault.
He's crying.
Which-
Again, you got to pan back over to him, and he's just sitting at Unk Nunky's like stone feet.
Okay, but is it Ojo the unlucky, or is it that Ojo stole brain magic from Dr. Pipt and Margalot and wasted it and then didn't tell anyone, and now he's reaping the
Consequences.
consequences of his actions?
I mean, I would say that probably no matter what brain she had, that could have happened. Her arm shot up. That's
I
not
don't know.
crazy.
He's made that powder before. It takes him 6 years. He probably
maybe
has it
because
figured out
you-
to a T. If he says it's going to take a few minutes for the magic to kick in, that's probably
He probably
typically
would
true.
know. But
I've
like the thing,
never
she
s-
has so much clever that
She,
Yeah.
I don't know.
so
She
much
immediately
clever.
wakes up. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
Jack Pumpkinhead, the Gump, and the Sawhorse all immediately woke up.
oh, that's
Whatever, Wyatt. You know what? Just if
Yeah.
you love L. Frank Baum so much, why don't you marry him? So the Patchwork Girl tells Ojo that he can't be unlucky if he has the intelligence to direct his own actions, unlike Dr. Pipt.
Yeah. She's like, that magic maker, yeah, he's the one that has a problem. You're fine. And also, what is the problem? She's like, I don't think I understand what's wrong here. And Dr. Pipt is like, okay, the liquid of petrification turned Margalot and Unk into marble. So that is really terrible. And the Patchwork Girl is like, well, just use the powder of life to bring them back, right? Like, you use that to bring me to life, I guess. So, like, can you do that?
Dr. Pipt almost literally says, OMG, why didn't I think of that?
And again, he's a doctor. From what school? Western? I'm sorry, I don't know what Western
And for our
is.
listeners who go to whatever Western is, we love you and we're so glad you're here.
I don't know what
Yeah.
Western is.
Your school is valid. But the Patchwork Girl's like, Higgledy-piggledy-dee, what fools magicians be. His head's so thick he can't think quick, so he takes advice from me.
Is she always gonna talk like this?
So
It'll
the thing-
recur.
she's doing it quite a bit. But the thing is, like, she clearly is able to communicate without doing it.
She just
We,
enjoys it.
we get an explanation later of why she's doing this.
Okay.
Okay.
But she
Oh,
does
that's
do this
right.
for fun, it seems like. But the magician finds that, okay, yeah, like the powder like is kind of like broken, or like, the jar's broken, it's like scattered around. There's not really anything in there. He tries to
Does he
sprinkle
have
some.
anymore?
No, all of it that was
Remember,
yeah.
he made like a handful of it
Yeah.
just to bring the Patchwork
And
Girl
it
to
takes
life.
years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tries to sprinkle it, but there's none left. And so he's like, okay, well, I again cursed the fucking phonograph. I wish you weren't alive.
Wasted
It's your
on
fault.
a phonograph.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too because not all the powder of life was used on the Patchwork Girl. Does that affect her mobility?
I don't
know
think
I asked
so.
it like that. I felt like I was at a TED talk.
She actually seems okay is the thing, which is like, it seems like he made way too much for how much he needed.
Yeah.
Well, I think he expected to have some left over, and then it all just spilled.
I see.
Maybe some of the boards in the house are alive too now.
Oh,
Who
no.
knows? And they're just going.
Help
Yeah.
me!
Yeah. Probably that.
But
But there's no powder.
the magician just
Damn.
covers his face and he just starts sobbing. And Ojo goes up.
Valid.
Yeah. Ojo goes up to Dr. Pipt and he's like, you can make more powder.
And Dr. Pipt, it's funny because in this moment, I feel like, yeah, like he's obviously sad about Margalot. But in this moment, I think he's more concerned about the fact that it takes 6 years of kettle stirring to do this, and he does not want to do that
He
again.
has to use
He
his
just-
arms and legs
Oh,
to
that's true.
stir
He just
for 6
spent
years.
6
A lot of
years
energy.
doing this. Like he's like the impression I get is like, yeah, I can make more and save them, but it takes 6 years.
He was
and I've been
suspecting
doing
a
it.
6-year break.
You know what I would do?
Yeah.
You know what I would do? I would use the Patchwork Girl and make another batch.
Yeah, you're right. Just use her.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to break the logic, but I had thought of that too. I was like, you're telling me he doesn't have anything that he could make to stir constantly with, and
Yeah,
maybe
why
there's
does
more
he-
to it than that. But
Have the phonograph do it. Have the phonograph and the
Oh my
Patchwork
God.
Girl make 2 batches at once.
Yeah, easy.
yeah, he could be mass producing this, but they didn't meet Henry Ford, so they don't know how
True.
to mass produce.
Another question about the powder of life. So let's say with the phonogram, if they were to sew on arms and legs to it, do they need to put the powder of life on those, or will it just start working?
They would, I think.
They
have
would need to
do
put the
that.
powder of life on if they added anything else, but it is attached to a stand with 4 legs, and those already move. So
Oh.
technically he has
kinda does
2
have
It's
arms
them
and
just
2
like the
legs.
sawhorse, basically, where like the
Yes.
sawhorse had these 2 legs, like chair leg or like table legs, and then they just become his normal legs.
Okay.
But I will say that the phonograph is the first thing that's been brought to life that didn't at least resemble something alive. Like the
True.
Gump, they gave a head and ears and like wings and everything, but this thing,
Has
it
a
doesn't need
mouth,
anything.
I guess.
Yeah, and
Was it
it's-
like
can
the
dance.
mouth? It's like speaker.
Yeah. But like it can,
Can
I-
it see?
it can. It seems to be able. Well, granted, we don't know yet. But my assumption is it can see. Otherwise, it would probably be like, "I'm blind. I'm blind."
It's darkness.
But Ojo does tell Dr. Pip, like, you could make another batch. And Dr. Pip is like, I could, but that takes me 6 years of constantly stirring. And while I'm doing that, Margalot will just be stuck here. So the Patchwork
And
Girl...
they're alive.
and
Like
they're like
just as
maybe
stone.
alive
I
in
don't
there.
know.
He,
They
I
can-
don't think anybody knows.
That's
but
probably true.
regardless, we lose 6 years. So like
Yeah.
Dr. Pip is already like 72 after
Oh.
6 years.
Yeah.
You know. So the Patchwork Girl's like, is there anything else we can do? Dr. Pip's like, no. And then he's like,
Wow.
yeah.
get a girl to work.
Yeah. There and it turns out that he remembers there is one other magical compound, the recipe for which is the inspiration for our recipe of our cocktail tonight, the magical compound.
Take a sip.
So
Oh my god. I almost vomited.
me too. So the Patchwork Girl is like, all right, well, let's see if we can make the compound. That's better than 6 years of stirring.
Yeah, because the magician says like it's really hard to, like it's hard to find the ingredients for, but it will be an instantaneous fix. Like if we can get the things we need, then we're done. But like it's hard to get those things.
So Patchwork Girl's like, yeah, let's go for it. The Glass Cat is like, that's the idea, Scraps. Good to see you've got such a good brain like me. You can see my pink brain's working.
What the
But
heck?
the Patchwork Girl's like, did you call me Scraps? Like, is my name Scraps now?
Ooh, that's a fun little nickname.
The magician is like, well, my wife was actually gonna name you Angeline.
She's like, actually, no, I like Scraps better.
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of like Scraps better too.
I do too. Yeah.
So how come all of a sudden we have names like Margalot and Angeline? Let's stick with
They're-
Bungle and
they're
Ojo.
Yeah.
Munchkin
All right.
names. They're Munchkin names. But well, I guess so's Ojo. But the magician is kind of like, okay, whatever. But the Patchwork Girl, or should I say Scraps, asks the cat if she has a name. And the cat is like, yeah, I'm called Bungle because I was a big mistake and they all hate me. And so that's just what they named me. But I fucking hate my name. And then there's no resolution to that.
Okay,
Because
so
Ojo just
Patchwork
breaks
Girl
in.
gets a new name, but
Yeah.
Bungle
maybe-
can't.
To be fair, we mostly refer to the cat as the Glass Cat. Like in the
We
text and
always
ourselves.
say the Glass Cat. I feel like he introduced her name as Bungle and forgot that he already told us that was her name.
Yeah,
I kinda
honestly,
think so, too.
I didn't remember that it had a name, and I did keep calling it the
Because
Glass
it was like
Cat.
a sideways thing.
Yeah.
It's like Margalot in in like 2 chapters ago was like, "Oh, hush now, Bungle," and then and then it was the Glass Cat. The
Yeah,
rest of
never
the
cut
time.
It was
Never good.
Voldemort.
Yes. But Ojo's like, okay, everybody, task at hand. What do we need to find to make the compound? Let's go. Like, we're losing precious time. Dr. Pip says, okay, first, I need a 6-leaved clover. Those can only be found in the green country, which is where?
The green are the Emerald City.
Yes.
It's hard because they're not like actually a country.
Yeah.
It's just in the middle.
That threw me off a little.
But they are like a 6-leaved clover is very hard to find even in the Emerald City, but the Emerald City is the only place they grow.
Interesting.
So that's number 1.
Ooh.
Number 2, they need to find the left wing of a yellow butterfly, which can only be found in the country of the Winkies to the west, where everything is yellow.
Okay, this is giving a lot of like Red Dead Redemption, like little side quests that I've been doing lately. So I really like this.
There you go. Yeah. No, this is fun. I will, and like this list keeps going on, but I will say it is fun because it's like, hey, here's your like call to adventure. We haven't had someone with a clear goal in a long time.
That's true.
Like Dorothy in the first book, hey, go to the Emerald City. Oh, go to the witch. Oh, go to the south. But the book since
It's always
then,
being
It's
sent.
just stomping.
yeah, it's been like stumbling around. So
Yeah.
like these people are gonna have purpose. So the next ingredient, well, actually the wizard or the magician is like, oh, like I can't remember the rest. I'm gonna go grab my recipe book. So he comes back with that, and then the next ingredient, which I think this is one of my favorite ingredients in this whole thing, is a gill of water from a dark well.
Ojo says, "What is a dark well?"
Not what is a gill of water. He says, what is a dark
Yes.
well?
Yeah. Yeah. What
Sorry,
even is Gil?
huh?
What's Gil?
Let's go.
I don't fucking know. Just means a little bit.
But yeah, Dr. Pip tells him the water needs to come from a well where the light never touches. The water needs to be put into a gold bottle, and it needs to be brought back to Dr. Pip without any light touching it, even after it's retrieved.
Whoa.
Yeah, that seems like actual magic. Like that seems like
Yeah.
something that like I would go out and get for my witchcraft in the modern day era. But so that's the other one. Then they also need 3 hairs from the tip of a woozy's tail. Don't know yet.
It's a woozy.
Don't fucking know yet. Hopefully not like a Kalita.
Yeah.
And the final thing is a drop of oil from a live man's body.
So Ojo says, "Gulp. What's a woozy, please?" Dr. Pip is like, "I don't know, some sort of animal. I've never seen one."
never seen one.
Yeah.
Just in the book.
Ojo's like, "Okay, an oil from a man's body.
It could be
I
any
don't
man?
get that." And Dr. Pip's like, "I don't know what that means. The recipe calls for it, so it must be right. It doesn't say blood. It says oil."
Yeah.
So
So you'll figure it out.
yeah, Ojo's not really satisfied with the instructions. They're very vague, but he's like, "All right, I'll
do
see what I can
something."
do."
Yeah. He's like, okay, like I'll try and do it.
So
And-
he's sending him out.
Well, so the magician is like, yeah, like that sounds good, but like, geez, that's like really hard to find. It's gonna be a really long journey. It might be multiple journeys, and you have to go to like all the lands of Oz to do this. But Ojo's like, well, I'm gonna try to save Uncle Nunky. Like, I
Yeah.
have to try. So that's kind of where it all leads, basically. Is
Dr.
okay.
Pips is like, "Okay, get out there, do your best. I'm going to start making a new batch of the powder of life. That way, if you don't find anything,
At
I
least it
haven't lost
started.
any
Yeah.
time."
He actually says,
Which-
if you're unlucky, Ojo, which Ojo the unlucky, then you know I'll have the backup. But it's like, yeah, if he's Ojo the unlucky,
Which also, if it takes Ojo 3 straight years to find everything,
yeah, so be it.
he still won.
So quick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
3
years is better than 6.
Yeah. So Ojo's like, "All right, I'm out of here." Patchwork Girl's like, "Oh, I'll go with you." The magician's like, "No, you won't."
Yeah, he's like, you're my servant, and you have not been discharged.
She's like, "What's a servant?" And Dr. Pip's like, "You know, one who serves. You know, a slave."
yeah, he said it. He said
said it?
He said,
he fumbles.
yeah,
over
he
it.
says, one who
Oh.
serves dash a comma a sort of slave.
And she said,
She said, "Excellent. I will serve you and your wife by helping Ojo find the things you need to save your wife's life."
Yeah.
How's that?
They are many and difficult to find, and Ojo is just a little baby boy, so I'm gonna go help. How's that? I'll be enslaved out there.
there we go.
And the magician says, yeah, okay, like it is gonna be super hard to find for Ojo, so okay, that makes sense.
And then she
about the
says,
glass cat?
She
Well.
says, "Here's a job for a boy of brains, a drop of oil from a live man's veins, a 6-leaved clover, 3 nice hairs from a woozy's tail, the book declares are needed for the magic spell, and water from a pitch-dark well. The yellow wing of a butterfly to find must Ojo also try, and if he gets them without harm, Doc Pip will make the magic charm, but if he doesn't get him, Uncle will always stand a marble chunk. Sorry, it lost its rhythm and rhyme at the end.
No, at the end it was, but if he doesn't get him, Unc will always stand a marble chunk.
Oh, the
there we go.
punctuation did not serve. But the magician, in hearing this rhyme that literally like recited everything he just said they needed
And
to get,
spontaneously rhyming in perfect verse.
You're gonna want her on that journey.
yeah, he was like, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
You should maybe go. Okay, you should maybe go with OJ.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, Margalot must have given you maybe a little too much posy by accident because you're pretty poetic. So posy just means poetic, like, or artistic. So he's like, yeah, she might have given you too much posy. Like, I'll let you go. Also, Margalot did something weird to your brains. Like, something weird is going on because you were having thoughts I would not have
Are
expected.
they gonna be able to like deconstruct her brain?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of shit they can do.
Sorry, I
They're
should
not-
be-
they're not right
their
now.
brains aren't even. Their thoughts aren't even there yet. But they were talking about maybe taking some of the cat's brains out.
That's
right.
true.
That's
As an experiment,
right.
replacing them. Also, Blake and I haven't read this book before, so we actually don't know. And you saying
Yeah.
that makes me horrified
So
because
you're
they probably
going
could.
as, yeah.
I can't believe we're saying that for the first time, but we
Yeah.
are actually on the ride with you this time.
Oh shit.
So basically, Dr. Pip tells her that she can go with Ojo, but she is his property. As soon as her mission is accomplished, she needs to return immediately. She needs to take care of herself. She needs to keep from ripping or getting ruined.
And he
then-
says not to wear out her velvet tongue by talking. And I'm like, oh no.
She's gonna wear that out.
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
all I do is talk.
Yeah, with all those rhymes.
But then Bungle is like, I'm going with Scraps and Ojo. I's fixing to sing. Okay, not the last part.
I was about to say.
But Dr. Pip is like, no, Bungle, you cannot go. You're going to get broken and you're going to become useless. And Bungle's like, no way. Not going to happen. 3 heads are better than 2, and I have beautiful brains. They're pink. Can't you see them work?
And the magician is like, okay, you're fucking annoying me. Just go with them.
Yeah, get out of here.
And so Dr. Pip goes, he grabs a basket, he packs it full of supplies, gives it to Ojo.
Food and some charms.
Yeah, food and a few charms, which is great. And the magician says, hey, you're going to meet a bunch of new friends who will help you along the way. You're going to be fine. Be careful with the Patchwork Girl. If you get annoyed with the cat, just break her and leave her in the woods. I literally don't care.
How terrible.
You have
my
my
God.
permission to break her.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
How disgusting. So that's a broken family.
Yeah,
but then
very much
Ojo, who
so.
comes from a healthy family, goes up to Unc Nunkey's stone statue body and kisses him on the face and tells him, I'm going to try to save you, Unc. And then the magician starts setting up kettles for a new batch of powder. Ojo picks up his basket a la Dorothy.
Yeah, very
or
Dorothy.
Kansas,
Oh yeah.
and starts out of the house with Scraps and Bungle behind him.
Yeah. And that is the end of the unbelievably long chapter 5,
Wow.
A Terrible Accident. And Blake,
That is a terrible accident.
and what would you call that terrible accident?
Some Oz, some ingredients.
Chapter 6, The Journey.
So we're out on the road. We're going.
They leave immediately,
So-
and they have no clue where they're going.
Ojo has never traveled. All he knows is, hey, if I follow this path down this mountain, I will end up in the Munchkin City.
Yeah.
You know?
And if I go the
Hopefully.
other way, I will be home. So he knows 2 things.
Yeah.
Scraps was born 15 minutes ago, and Bungle has never left the yard of the magician of Margalot's house.
Yeah.
So everyone is like lions and tigers and bears, oh my,
That's
basically.
an interesting group.
Yes.
But thankfully, and it is an interesting group, and they didn't give them a map or anything.
No.
Like
Yeah, no
Dr. Pip couldn't do
directions.
anything else for them. Like
he didn't write down a list of the things he needed. He didn't.
Well, but they
draw
have the
out a
song.
map. I know. I thank God.
a smart boy with clover done, and then the oil of
the
man.
red wing, yellow wing.
Yeah. So they know,
Yes.
but I agree. It is
Any of the items.
well, it is crazy though. But thankfully, there is only one path going the direction that Ojo has never been before. So they follow that, and they all just are kind of reflecting quietly as they walk through the woods of like, this is pretty serious. Like Margalot and Unk Nunky are like turned to stone. They're on a serious mission. Like, geez, like it's a pretty dark situation.
Yeah.
But Scraps laughs out loud. And Ojo, who's not in a particularly silly mood, is like, has something pleased you? She has a really interesting point here. Like, she's laughing at something good, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
She's basically like, life's insane. I'm made of a bed quilt. I was made to be a slave, but by some random accident, I'm out here free while the person who made me to be a slave is inside as a statue.
Yeah.
Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's
Life
like,
is crazy.
wow.
If that's not
she's so
funny, I don't know
self-aware.
what is.
She is so like she is looking at the world in a way that I think I'm gonna need 6 years of therapy to accomplish.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. She woke up fully awake, to
Love
be honest.
her.
But the glass cat is like, hey, you haven't even seen everything yet. Like, there's more than just the trees. And Scraps is like, yeah, I know it's not just trees. There are ferns, wildflowers, all this soft grass, the sunlight. Like, this whole world is beautiful. And if the rest is half as beautiful as this, glad to be alive. And I'm like, bitch, wait till you get to the Emerald City, the most beautiful place on earth.
She is like the only thing I feel like that has been given the powder of life and actually appreciates life.
Yeah.
Yes,
Agreed.
Everything
Yeah.
else has been very like, when will I die or kill me now?
Yeah, or just like just doesn't care,
Yeah.
Like I feel like the scarecrow is just like existing, but
Yeah.
Well, even
and-
like the Gump is just like, I'm flying now. I can't wait to be dead again.
Yeah.
It's just like,
there's no passion.
Yeah.
There's no strive to be great.
yeah.
Like,
But she was given a good
the
brain.
sawhorse is the closest thing to that, but I think the sawhorse has just accepted where
Yeah.
he is in life. I don't think he's
The sawhorse,
glad.
yeah,
Yeah.
the sawhorse is just very zen. I feel like, but the Patchwork Girl has the zest and the zen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two Z's.
But Bungle tells the Patchwork Girl, she's like, I don't know what the rest of the world is like, Scraps. And Ojo's like, me neither. I've never been out of the forest, but these trees are gloomy. These trees are sad. It's probably nicer where there's more people and less trees. Because, he's been a baby in the woods his entire life.
All he knows is being alone in the trees.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
he's like, yeah. And he's still like, granted, Scraps and the glass cat are like fully like, human consciousnesses, sure. But at the same time, they're not people. Like, like he's still hardly ever met any people. Like,
Yeah.
he's seen nothing.
Margalot was like the first person he'd ever seen that wasn't Unk Nunky.
Yeah. And on that same vein, Scraps is reflecting like, I've never seen anybody but you guys, and all of you have pale skin. You wear clothes that are the same color as the entire country. You guys are really boring, and I'm actually pretty insane and multicolored and bright. So I wonder what everybody else is going to be like. So she's wondering. She has ideas.
She's gonna
Ojo,
be disappointed.
yeah, maybe. Ojo's like, I think I might have overdosed you with brains.
Oh my god.
He's like, maybe I did make a
He's
mistake.
like, you're talking a lot, and I feel like I need to admit something to you.
Yeah, he's like, are you the
But-
main character?
He's like, I thought it was me.
You said admit something to her, and Scraps is like, what did you have to do with my brains? And
And he's like,
a
a lot.
lot,
I did a
honey."
lot.
I actually went crazy.
He tells her that Margalot was only going to give her enough brains to keep her going, but when she wasn't looking, he gave the Patchwork Girl a lot more.
And she says, thank you. The more
Aw.
brains, the better. That's great. And Ojo's like, yeah, but you seem a little imbalanced because, like, you're acting kind of different than other people
Yeah,
do,
but you
which
know
is
what?
true.
You guys aren't God.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's probably for the best because every person should be made in a unique way, not tampered
Yeah,
with.
they shouldn't be designed to be
Yeah.
a servant. You should say, hey, here's all your qualities, and now this is like the life you have. Isn't this good? And they'll be like, I want to go to the big city. I'm fixing to sing. And then they go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fixing to sing. But Bungle tells Ojo, she's like, don't worry. Like, the Patchwork Girl does not have enough brains to hurt her. They're nothing like my beautiful pink brains. Can't you see them? Can't you see how they work? After a while, they come to a little brook. And Ojo's like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go in my wicker basket. I'm going to pull out some lunch. Very Dorothy.
And guess what foods he finds?
Nuts.
Close.
He wishes bread and cheese. Of
and
course.
he's stoked.
Yeah, he is. He's like, oh my God, I've never seen this much bread and cheese before.
He finds himself becoming even more stoked.
Because he breaks off a piece of bread, but then he looks back at the loaf and it's whole. So it's cornucopia style. He breaks a piece of the cheese off, looks at the piece of cheese. It's full. So he can break off as much as he wants. It just grows back. And he's like, oh my God.
Unlimited.
Yes. Unlimited soup, salad, breadsticks, cheese, and bread. Because at Olive Garden here, he gets it all. And he's like, oh my God, like this is amazing. The magician enchanted this. That's fucking great.
So Scraps is watching him eat. And she's like, why do you put those things in your mouth?
Yeah. Like, do you need more stuffing? Because you should use cotton like I have. It's way better than whatever you're doing.
He's like, I don't need that kind of stuffing.
That's fun, I guess.
Yeah. Scraps is like, well, aren't mouths to talk with? And Ojo's like, well, yeah, but they're also to eat with. And if I don't eat, I'll starve. And Scraps is like, oh my God, I'm learning how to be a person. Like, give me food. I don't want to starve.
So she puts the piece of bread into her mouth with her velvet tongue and her pearl teeth. And she just kind of goes, nom, nom, nom.
She's like, what do I do next?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Through the bread. And he's like, well, you chew and swallow. So that's when she goes,
she's gonna need a floss.
She can't.
Those
Yeah,
pearls.
she flexes her hole, and she can't swallow.
She flexes her hole.
Yeah, she can't swallow, and she just eventually has to scrape it out of her mouth, and it must just be so dry. It's just dry bread.
So's her mouth, though.
Exactly. Yeah, everything is dry.
But it's funny
no
because
saliva.
she just like scrapes it out of her mouth, and she's like, "I'm starving. I can't eat."
She's like, "I'm gonna go hungry."
Oh my God.
And the cat is like, no, you don't eat. Neither do I. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, we aren't like human creatures. Like, we are just different. Do you not understand that still?
And the Patchwork Girl is like, I don't have to understand anything right now. Like, leave me alone and let me figure out how to live by myself.
Honestly,
like,
she's been alive for an hour.
I want to learn.
Yeah. She's like, let me discover my own body and my own self and my own
If I
want to
put bread in my mouth, I'm gonna put bread in my mouth.
Did I die?
No.
And there's unlimited bread. It's not like she took it from
Not
Ojo.
wasting anything.
If she can do that every hour if she wants. If she wants to roll bread around in her mouth every hour and
it
then
feels
scrape
good.
it out, fine.
She could spit the bread back into Ojo's mouth.
And
it's not
also,
gross.
Yeah,
she's
it's not gross.
the glass cat is not the same as her.
No.
Why?
Yeah, the glass cat's being like, we're not real like humans. It's like, well, glass cat, you're actually something completely different.
Yeah.
So Scraps is really enjoying herself. She starts jumping back and forth over the brook, over the bubbling brook, just jumping back and forth. And Ojo's like, hey, you better be careful. You might fall in. Then you could become too soggy to walk, or all of your colors could run into each other and make you just like shit brown.
Yeah.
Because she's very fond of her colors. So he's
So
like,
the glass
hey,
cat
stop.
is a doctor.
Well, so Ojo like tells her this, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess he just doesn't want her soaking. I don't know.
I mean,
He
it's
seems
like,
to need to
it's
mind
good
his own
advice.
business.
I will say, like, oh, if you're like soaking wet and heavy, you can't walk. That's a problem. And also, if I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, you probably don't know this, but your colors might run, so like, be careful. And that's what gets her because she's like, oh, I don't want my colors to get fucked up. Like, I actually really like
She's
that.
like,
My
about
colors are
myself.
that's the most
Yeah.
important thing
So
to me.
she chills out. She's like, okay, like now that you've told me that, I'm gonna like just worry about that because that's what makes me beautiful. Like
I'm
my
just gonna
colors.
worry.
Yeah, she's like, my colors are what make me beautiful. And the cat, of course, the glass cat, is feeling poisonous and terrible. And she's like, well, your colors actually aren't beautiful. They're actually ugly. And what is beautiful is me because I'm transparent and I have my beautiful ruby eyes and my heart, or my beautiful ruby heart, and my pink brains. You can see them working. Like, they're beautiful. And this is where Scraps enters absolute demon mode.
Yeah, I was like, you can think like this? Because she's like, yeah, sure, cat. And your horrid green eyes. You can't see your ugly little fucking eyes. We can see them.
You can't miss
And,
Bungle.
Yeah. You don't have, it's a good thing you don't have as many colors as I do, because if you did, you'd be a real bitch. Basically.
Yeah. She's like, shoo. And then she starts jumping over the cat back and forth.
Oh my
going,
god.
Doodle-doo.
She's shrieking laughter. Bungle is getting freaked the fuck out and starts like running over to a tree, and she chases her, and she screams at her, whoop-de-doodle-doo, the cat has lost her shoe. Her tootsie's bare, but she don't care. What's the odds to you?
Bungle is like latched to this tree, like, Ojo, I think the creature's crazy. And Ojo's like, I think it may be.
Yeah, he's like,
He knows what
maybe.
he did. He knows what he did.
And the cat is like, okay, if Scraps keeps acting like this and keeps insulting me, I'm going to scratch off her button eyes. And Ojo's like, okay, guys, fucking chill. Like, stop fighting. Like, please don't fight. Like, we need to just be friends.
We've got a
There's-
long journey.
Yeah, there's plenty of troubles on the road. Let's not have trouble at home like this.
So around sundown, they come out of the forest. They're on their path, and they see these sprawling blue fields ahead of them. They're dotted with domed homes. It's all still pretty far out in the distance, but there is one home that's pretty near to them, maybe a mile or so. And they approach it, and there's a munchkin woodchopper standing in front of the house holding an axe. And he's surprised to see them coming out of the woods.
Yeah. A little boy, a patchwork girl, and a glass cat. So he's
Yes.
like, what?
Yes.
As the patchwork girl is approaching, he like sees her, and then he starts laughing so hard that he has to sit down and he can barely breathe and he can't speak. And the woodchopper is like, of course, he has his blue whiskers, he has his blue eyes, his blue clothes. They're kind of old because he's like a woodcutter. And he's like, wow, I have never seen anything as fucking crazy as you. I didn't even know something like you could live in the land of Oz. Where did you come from, crazy quilt?
She's like, who, me? She's like, dude,
Also,
I'm
real
not-
quick, I'm sorry, but like, why are people always so surprised about who they see in Oz?
I know.
get used to it.
It's just, how do you not know there's insane people that
Honestly,
live in Oz?
yeah.
it seems like what I'm gathering is, unless you were standing right next to Dorothy, weird things don't happen around you.
I guess that's
Apparently.
true.
If you live in the Munchkin land, everything's the same every
Well-
day until Dorothy shows up with a fucking lion. You know what I mean?
I mean, I agree with that generally, but then I'm like, well, the Munchkin country was ruled over by the Wicked Witch of the East until Dorothy murdered her. That's pretty crazy.
But like, okay, you're a country with a president, a king.
Maybe.
But like,
Dictator.
still, regardless, the Wicked Witch of the East, before she died, was a constant. She wasn't something
True.
that just popped
That's
up
true.
one day.
Yeah.
It is surprising though, because they do know everything can exist in Oz, but then yeah, you don't see it, so like you don't have to think about it. You know, I know
People-
elephants exist. If an elephant was walking down the street, I think that was fucking weird, even though I know they live on the earth with us.
Yeah.
Or like a cougar or something.
They
that could actually be
probably-
here. That'd be
I
crazy.
guess there's just a lot of people that don't break their routine in Oz.
So the wood chopper like calls her Crazy Quilt, and Scraps is like, who, me? My ancestry is not Crazy Quilt, it's Patchwork. And the wood chopper is like, yeah, same thing. My family calls it Crazy Quilt. They're the same thing. He cannot believe that Scraps is alive. And Ojo tells him it was done by the magic powder of life. And the wood chopper's like, oh, so you must have come from the Crooked Magician's place. The glass cat should have given that away.
And he explains, for some reason, that the magician is going to get in trouble because only Glinda and the wizard can do magic. Which I'm like, okay, well, we know that they're fine. Like
Okay, but what we don't know is that if they go anywhere near the Emerald City, they will all be arrested.
But I don't know if that's accurate. is my thing. I
But
think
like, are they doing magic?
No,
well,
they
they're
were
not.
created by
They
magic.
were created by magic. I
Yeah,
think.
Not
and he's
Ojo,
not
but-
gaining anything really from it, right? Like money
I mean,
or
No,
like
because
earnings
they were
and
never
stuff.
meant to
Exactly.
leave his house.
It is still
Yeah.
within the rules, I think. I think that what they have done, or what the magician has done, is still within the law. And I think this wood chopper is like being an alarmist, basically, and being like, oh, you guys are fucking like, what? Like, you
I
guys
see.
crossed the border? Like, you're going to jail.
Well,
Okay, citizen arrest.
Yeah, right.
he's like, stay away from the Emerald City. And Scraps is like, well, that's where we're going. And then she sings, if any of us takes a rest, we'll be arrested, sure, and get no restitution, 'cause the rest we must endure.
And the man says that Scraps is crazy.
He nods his head and he's like, oh, I see. You're crazy.
You're crazy.
Yeah, like a crazy quilt. And the cat says, yeah, she is crazy because she's made of many different colors, unlike this cat. And I'm beautiful and clear, and I have working brains. See him work?
Always
the wood
talking about the
chopper.
clear.
Yeah. The wood chopper is like, yeah, like, you're cool. I don't really see much use for a glass cat, but a patchwork girl is really useful. I mean, when I see her, she makes me laugh, and laughter is one of the best things in life.
And you know what's crazy? Can you think of something else that might have made him laugh? Probably not.
Think about what this guy might do for a living.
Chop wood.
He fucking laughs at that all the time, man.
That's what.
But no, he used to have a friend who was a wood chopper, but this certain wood chopper or woodman was made all of tin.
Yeah, nah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You know,
He's
it's
your favorite.
Woodman,
Well, I
wood
just thought
chopper.
everyone was dead and gone.
No,
Oh,
they're not
sure.
dead and gone. No, they're not.
Dead and gone.
But he said he always used to laugh when he saw the Tin Woodman, and Ojo was like, a Tin Woodman? No, that's crazy.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
So the wood chopper's like, well, he wasn't always made of tin. Actually, he was really clumsy with his axe, and he had all these accidents. So every time he got something replaced, he eventually became all tin. And Ojo's like, could he still chop wood after being made into tin? And this munchkin is like, yeah, as long as his joints didn't rust. But then he met Dorothy, and she took him to the Emerald City, where he became a rich and famous celebrity emperor.
Yeah, now he's the favorite of Ozma. And yeah, he rules the kingdom. And my big question here is, wouldn't this have been the perfect time to explain that the Tin Woodman used to be called Nick Chopper? Like, when you're giving us this guy who has his full backstory, couldn't he have just said, well, his name was Nick Chopper, but you might know him as the Tin Woodman? Because this is the only time we've ever experienced someone with that experience. So, like, why?
That's true.
Why didn't we get that?
Give the lore.
Yeah, he's acting like this all happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So then Scraps is like, who's Dorothy? And he's like, oh, well, Dorothy's from Kansas originally, but now she's a princess of Oz, and she's Ozma's best friend. And Ojo's like, is Dorothy made of tin? And Scraps is like, is Dorothy made of patchwork? And the wood chopper's like, no, Dorothy's a meat dog.
Yeah. She's made of flesh. But
Just a meat dog.
Ojo is like, well, like, we might see the Tin Woodman since we're going to the land of the Winkies too. And the Munchkin's like, well, that's a long way. You're going to have to, like, go across rivers, dark forests. Like, do you guys want to stay here for the night? Because, like, it's getting dark out soon. And, like, it's a good place to stay. It's just a hut. But they haven't gone that far today. So they're like, no, thank you. We're good. And they just decide to keep going.
But no surprise here. It gets dark much faster than they thought it would. The children.
Yeah.
And Ojo is starting to regret this decision. And Ojo's like, I can't hardly see the path, Scraps. Can you? And she grabs his arm and she's like, no, I can't see shit.
Yeah. And suddenly it is pitch black. No moon, very few stars, I assume. They can't see anything. And the cat is like, well, I can see fine, actually.
Yeah,
Like, my
my-
eyes are really good.
My eyes are better than yours and my pink brains. And Ojo is like, hey, shut the fuck up about your pink fucking brains.
Oh my God, Ojo's
I'm going to
mad.
tie a string to you. You're going to get us out of this dark forest. And that's what
Okay, yeah.
happens. So he ties a string around Bungle. They walk for an hour.
In pitch black. They're just holding the string, being led by a glass cat.
That's so scary.
Can't see anything.
In a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mind you, Kalidas got onto Dr. Pip's property and returned to Marble. So there's
And
creatures out
Ojo
here.
is
Couldn't be
the
me.
only thing that can be hurt. Like,
That's
Oh
true.
yeah, that is.
Oh,
he's
God.
the only
Pretty
one
true.
who can be hurt.
This is really giving the invisible bears in the Valley of Voe.
Yes.
to
Oh
me.
yeah.
It's giving anxiety.
After an hour of walking, up ahead in the distance, they see a twinkling blue light. And Ojo's like, oh my God, there's a house. Okay, keep walking. Once we get there, we'll ask the good people if we can stay the night.
Yeah. So they keep walking, and they're walking for like a while, but they're not really seeming to get closer to the blue light. And the more they walk, the farther it goes. And a note that I have is it's really giving like Will-o'-the-Wisp, like a swamp
Yes.
light, like the little like spirit in like English folklore that like is in the swamp. It's like a light that makes you follow it and tricks you into like going off the path.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I thought
at
of
this
that
moment,
too.
I'm like, oh my God, it's like leading them astray. Like it
Oh
is taking them
God.
deeper into the forest.
Yeah.
I thought of that too, especially because finally Bungle is like, guys, that light is obviously moving as well. Like we are not getting
Yeah.
any closer to it. We'll never catch up. But there's a house. Why don't we just stop here? And Scraps is like, where's the house? And Bungle is like, it's right there. It's right next to
Oh my
us.
God,
Yeah.
it's really
It
pitch
is
black.
right next to them, like so close that it's kind of disturbing.
Yeah,
like
that
they
they
should be
just
able to
couldn't see
feel
it.
it breathing on them. And like, but Ojo looks over and he can see it. It's like off the path. It's like to the left or right, who knows?
Like,
But
in
like,
the moonlight, you
yeah,
can tell
like he can
something's
see like,
there.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, like yeah. So he's like, okay, like cool. Let's go over there and like let's go because we need
a
to stay
s-
somewhere.
Not a single light
No
on in the
lights.
house. It's very Tin Woodman's cabin. Honestly.
yeah, serious.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
But Ojo walks up, he knocks on the door, and a voice calls out, "Who is there?"
Scary.
Ojo's like, "I'm Ojo the Unlucky. I'm with Miss Scraps Patchwork and the Glass Cat."
And after assigning names and titles to everybody, the voice is like, "What do you want?" And Ojo's like, "We just need a place to sleep, man. Like, we're on the road, we're travelers." And the voice says, "Okay, fine, come in, don't make any noise, and go directly to bed."
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Scary.
spooky.
I mean, I guess that's what they're there
So,
for, but
Ojo opens the door and they walk in. It's pitch black inside.
why is everything dark?
Ojo and Scraps cannot see anything, but Bungle, who we know can see pretty well in the dark, says, "There's no one here."
No one in this house.
Hmm.
And Ojo's like, "Well, someone spoke to us. So, like, there's
Bungle
someone in
is
here."
Look
like,
up.
Dude, Bungle's like, "Dude, I can see everything in this room. There is no one here. But there's 3 beds over there. Let's just go to bed."
Yeah, they're made up. They look fresh. They're ready to go.
That's weird.
Maybe we should just sleep. And I'm freaked out in this moment because they are making so much noise. And the voice
So-
said, "Come in, don't make any noise, go right to bed."
Yeah.
All they did is come in, make noise, and
But
not go to
they
bed.
have fucking Scraps and a cat with feet that probably go tick, 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 tick,
Yeah.
tick. And Scraps is like, "What is sleep?" And Ojo's
Oh,
like, "It's
no.
what you do when you go to bed." And Scraps is like, "Why do you go to bed?"
No, this is not the
But
time
the
nor the
voice
place.
cries out and says, "You are making altogether too much noise. Keep quiet, strangers, and go to bed."
Bungle looks all around because she is like, that voice was right behind me. She doesn't see shit. So
Nothing.
She starts to get a little bit freaked
Yeah.
out. She whispers to Ojo and she's like, hey, it's time to go to bed. We need to just go to bed.
Yeah.
Follow me. And so Bungle takes Ojo to a bed. He feels it. It's soft. It's comfortable.
It's normal bed.
big. So he kicks off his shoes. He takes off his hat. He lays down in his bed. Bungle takes Scraps to another bed. And she's like, Scraps, come on, lay down.
And keep quiet. And Scraps is like, well, like, can I sing?
No.
Can I whistle?
No.
Girl, you know what quiet is.
And she's like, can't I dance until morning if I want to?
Bungle is like, what part of lay down and keep quiet do you not understand?
And Scraps is like, well, I don't want to. And actually, you have no right to order me around.
Full voice.
Yeah,
Full voice.
she's not whispering.
Oh
she's
my
like
God.
yelling.
I'm like, girl, this guy's letting us stay here. Shut the fuck up.
Before Scraps can even finish what she is saying, she is yanked out of her bed by an unseen hand.
No.
The door is thrown open. She is chucked out
She
into the
tumbles.
street. She rolls into the street. The door slams shut.
Yeah.
She like finds her way back to the cottage and finds that the door is locked and she can't get in. And Ojo
Yeah.
is like, what happened to Scraps?
Bungle, for some reason, is like, don't worry about it. Let's just
go to
get
bed.
sleep.
Obviously.
Like, we should all be leaving
Yeah.
is what
I wouldn't sleep there.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, granted, the voice gave them rules and they disobeyed. And they're fine because they obeyed the rules. So Bungle's like, hey, go to sleep before something happens to us. We're going to be good. And Ojo follows the directions. He's fucking exhausted. And he's like, okay. And then he falls asleep, which is very Dorothy. Just like, okay,
Napping
I'll
in
take a nap on the
crisis.
plane.
Mhm.
Yeah. But that is the end of chapter 6, The Journey. And Blake, what would you call that?
Chapter 6, The Invisible Innkeeper.
Wow. Thank you for listening to Oz Hour. Please join us next time as we continue with Book 7, The Troublesome Phonograph. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Oz Hour Podcast for everything on Oz. Oz Hour, created and hosted by Blake Stone and Wyatt Swangham. Co-hosted by Hannah Aguirre. Audio production by Charlie Johnson. Theme music written and performed by Rudy Klobus. Cover art by Valentin Lucas.